Bronny, what's the energy been like in the gym this summer around these guys? Anybody stand out? Anything pop to you that maybe seems different, or growth from the foundation that was kind of laid in the organization in JJ's first year?
Everything has been great. Energy in the summer. We come out here every day ready to work and ready to get better as a team. I've been playing, against each other.
The unthinkable just happened. Bronny James, the son who was supposed to carry the torch, just might have shattered LeBron's entire legacy in one devastating moment. After weeks of struggling in the G League, sources close to the team say Bronny looks absolutely defeated, and the fallout is already tearing through NBA circles like wildfire. LeBron built an empire over 2 decades. He fought for respect, championships, and generational greatness. But now, his dream of playing alongside his son is turning into a PR nightmare that's making people question everything. Was this all just nepotism? A vanity project gone horribly wrong? And why does Bronny look like he's carrying the weight of the entire basketball world on his shoulders? Because what we're witnessing right now isn't just a young player struggling to find his footing. This is a legacy crumbling in real time. And the worst part? LeBron might have been the one who set it all in motion. Let's rewind for a second. For years, LeBron James talked about one dream that mattered more to him than rings, more than records, more than anything: playing in the NBA alongside his son. It was beautiful, right? A father and son sharing the court at the highest level of basketball. Historic, emotional, the kind of moment that transcends sports. And when it finally happened earlier this season, the world watched. LeBron and Bronny checked into the game together. The cameras captured every second. Fans cheered. Social media exploded. It was supposed to be the perfect culmination of LeBron's career. Proof that he could have it all. But here's what nobody wanted to talk about in that moment. Bronny wasn't ready. From day one, the whisper started. Scouts who watched him in college knew he was raw. His shooting percentages were inconsistent, his decision-making was shaky, but none of that mattered because he had the last name James. And when you're LeBron's son, the rules are different, the expectations are different, the pressure is suffocating. Bronny never asked for this. He didn't choose to be born into basketball royalty, but the moment he stepped onto that NBA court, he became a symbol, not of his own potential, but of his father's dream. And that's a weight no 20-year-old should have to carry. The early games were rough. Bronny barely saw minutes. When he did play, he looked hesitant, almost afraid to make mistakes. You could see it in his eyes, the fear of letting everyone down, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of ruining the moment his dad had worked his entire life for. And honestly, that fear was justified, because what came next was even worse. In early 2025, the decision was made. Bronny James was being sent to the G League. Not for a brief stint to get reps, not as part of some strategic development plan. This was a demotion, plain and simple. The official statement tried to soften it. They talked about development opportunities and getting more playing time. But everyone knew what this really was, an admission that Bronny wasn't NBA ready, that the father-son dream had been rushed, that maybe, just maybe, LeBron's influence had pushed his son into a spotlight he wasn't prepared for. The stats told the brutal truth. Bronny's shooting percentages were well below league average. His plus-minus numbers were terrible. In the limited minutes he played, he looked lost on both ends of the floor. Analysts who tried to be kind called him a work in progress. The honest ones? They said he had no business being in the NBA yet. But here's where it gets really messy. This wasn't just one demotion. Reports started circulating that Bronny was being sent up and down between the NBA roster and the G League multiple times. It became a pattern, a cycle of hope and disappointment. And with each trip back to the G League, the narrative got worse. Social media had a field day. Twitter was ruthless. Memes flooded timelines showing Bronny's face photoshopped onto movie posters about failure. Instagram comments under his posts turned vicious. "Nepotism, baby. Not your daddy. You're embarrassing the family name." The cruelty was relentless.
Was there one skill set that you wanted to improve upon and make sure that you sharpen that to be really good?
No, I wouldn't say that because, you need an all-around game. You can't just be, good at one thing to be on an NBA floor. So I'm, working on my body, working on my strength in the weight room, stuff like that, working on my quickness, but also coming out on the court and working on my, my game on the offense end. So it's been an all-around, work.
Leaked reports from people within the organization started painting an even darker picture. One source described Bronny as distant during practices. Another said he seemed mentally checked out, going through the motions but clearly not present. These weren't just performance issues anymore. This was a young man who looked defeated. And that's when the real questions started to emerge. Did LeBron make a terrible mistake? If you've watched any of Bronny's recent appearances, whether it's G League games, practice footage, or even just him sitting on the bench, you've probably noticed something unsettling. The kid looks broken. His body language tells the entire story. Shoulders slumped, head down, eyes that seem to be staring at nothing. During timeouts, while other players are engaged and locked in, Bronny often sits alone, towel over his head, disconnected from everyone around him. Body language experts who analyzed his recent footage pointed out the same patterns. One expert noted that Bronny displays classic signs of someone under extreme psychological stress: avoiding eye contact, closed-off posture, minimal interaction with teammates. These aren't just the behaviors of someone having a bad game. This is someone who's drowning. And honestly, can you blame him? Imagine being 20 years old and having millions of people dissect every mistake you make. Imagine knowing that your presence on a professional roster is being questioned not because of your talent, but because of your last name. Imagine feeling like you're the reason people are doubting your father's legacy. That's not basketball pressure. That's existential crisis territory. The comparisons to other legacy kids started pouring in. People brought up Michael Jordan's sons, who stayed away from the NBA spotlight. They mentioned Magic Johnson's son, who chose a completely different path. The message was clear. Sometimes the smartest thing a legend's kid can do is step out of the shadow entirely. But Bronny didn't have that option. Or maybe he did, and the pressure from his father, from the media, from the world made it impossible to take. Either way, what we're watching now is painful. It's a young man who looks like he's carrying a burden no human should have to bear. And the saddest part? The people who should be protecting him, the coaches, the organization, maybe even his own father, seem more concerned with managing the optics than actually helping Bronny heal. Whispers have started circulating that Bronny might not even want to be in the NBA, that this was never really his dream, it was his father's. And if that's true, then what we're witnessing isn't just a player struggling, it's a son being sacrificed on the altar of his father's ego. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: LeBron James's legacy. For 20 years, he's been building one of the most impressive resumes in sports history. 4 championships, multiple MVP awards, all-time leading scorer, a case for being the greatest basketball player to ever live. But legacies aren't just built on what you accomplish. They're also defined by the decisions you make and the consequences that follow. And right now, this Bronny situation is threatening to overshadow everything LeBron has ever done. Critics who've been waiting for years to take shots at LeBron finally have their ammunition, and they're not holding back. Sports talk shows are filled with debates about whether LeBron prioritized his personal dream over what was best for his son, whether he used his power and influence to force a situation that was never going to work. The nepotism allegations are louder than ever. And here's the thing, they're not entirely wrong. Bronny got drafted because of his last name. He made an NBA roster because of who his father is. There's no other explanation. Dozens more talented players are grinding in the G League right now with no path to the NBA, while Bronny got a golden ticket he clearly wasn't ready for. And that hurts LeBron's legacy in ways championships can't fix. Former players have started speaking out. Not with their names attached, of course. Nobody wants to go on record criticizing LeBron James. But anonymous quotes are leaking everywhere. He put his kid in an impossible situation. This isn't about basketball anymore, it's about ego. LeBron made this about himself, not Bronny. Even some analysts who've defended LeBron for years are struggling to spin this one. How do you defend a father who seemingly pushed his son into a situation that's destroying him mentally and emotionally? How do you justify the resources and roster spots being used on someone who clearly isn't ready, all because of a famous last name? The GOAT debate, the one LeBron has spent his entire career fighting, just took a major hit. Because now, when people think about LeBron's final chapter, they won't just remember the points in the records. They'll remember this: the father who loved his son so much that he destroyed him. And it's not just LeBron's reputation on the line. The entire NBA is taking heat for this. Fans are asking tough questions. Is this league a meritocracy, or is it a playground for the rich and famous? If LeBron can get his unqualified son on a roster, what does that say about the integrity of the game? The league has tried to stay quiet, but the damage is done. This story is not going away. And every time Bronny struggles, every time he gets demoted, every time he looks defeated on camera, it's another nail in the coffin of LeBron's pristine image. And here's where things get even more complicated, because what happens next could determine whether LeBron's legacy survives this or not. So stick with me, because this is about to get real uncomfortable. So where do we go from here? Because this situation has no easy answers, no clean resolution, just a lot of uncomfortable questions that nobody really wants to ask out loud. First, let's talk about Bronny's future. At this point, it's genuinely uncertain whether he has one in professional basketball. The G League numbers aren't improving, the confidence isn't coming back, and the mental and emotional toll seems to be getting worse, not better. Some people close to the situation have quietly suggested that the best thing for Bronny might just be to step away entirely. Take a break, focus on his mental health, figure out what he actually wants out of life, not what everyone else expects from him. But can you imagine the headlines if that happens? LeBron's son quits basketball? The media would have a field day. The trolls would be merciless. And that's the trap Bronny is stuck in. He can't keep playing at this level. It's clearly destroying him. But he also can't quit without being labeled a failure, without confirming every critic's worst accusations about nepotism and entitlement. And then there's LeBron. What does he do now? Does he keep pushing? Does he use his influence to keep Bronny on a roster, even if it means watching his son suffer? Or does he finally admit that this whole thing was a mistake and let Bronny walk away? Either option is brutal. If LeBron keeps pushing, he's the villain who sacrificed his son for his own vanity. If he lets Bronny quit, he's admitting that his dream was unrealistic and that he misread the situation entirely. There's no winning move here. The media circus isn't going to stop until someone speaks, until LeBron or Bronny or someone from the organization comes forward and addresses this honestly. But that's not going to happen, because the truth is too painful. The truth is that this father-son dream turned into a nightmare, and there's no way to spin that into something positive. And what about their relationship? Can a father-son bond survive this kind of pressure? When Bronny looks back on this chapter of his life 10 years from now, what is he going to feel? Gratitude that his dad believed in him? Or resentment that he was pushed into a situation he wasn't ready for? Right now, it's impossible to say. But the footage doesn't lie. The look in Bronny's eyes doesn't lie. This is a young man who's struggling in ways that go far beyond basketball. The legacy question looms large. 20 years from now, when people talk about LeBron James, will they remember the championships and the records? Or will they remember the father who loved his son so much that he broke him? Because right now, in early 2025, that's the story that's being written. And unless something changes dramatically, that's the story that's going to stick. This isn't just a basketball story anymore. It's a cautionary tale about pressure,
expectations, and the cost of chasing dreams that might not be yours to begin with. Bronny James looks defeated because he is defeated, and LeBron's legacy is taking damage because for the first time in his career, he made a decision that wasn't about winning. It was about something more personal. And that decision is backfiring in the most public, painful way possible. The world is watching. The critics are circling. And somewhere in the middle of all this chaos is a 20-year-old kid who just wants the weight off his shoulders. So here's the real question. Did LeBron's love for his son end up being the thing that destroyed them both? Or is there still a way back from this? Drop your thoughts below, because this story is far from over. If you want to stay updated on the latest NBA drama, the behind-the-scenes stories the media won't tell you, and the real truth about what's happening with LeBron and Bronny, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're diving deep into the stories that matter, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.